Rio Fashion Week is back and 30,000 people showed up to prove it. 10 years. That's how long Rio Fashion Week was basically gone. No runway, no shows, no spotlight. The fashion world moved on. But Rio didn't forget. And 2 weeks ago, they made everybody remember. Five days, 20 Brazilian brands, $20 million into the city, and moments on that runway that nobody saw coming. This is the full story, and trust me, it's worth it. Here's some history a lot of people don't know. There was a time when Rio de Janeiro wasn't just Brazil's fashion capital. It was one of the fashion capitals of the world. We're talking runways that had people flying in from Paris, designers who chose Rio over New York, models who built their whole careers right here on Carioca soil. The Carioca style was its own thing. It wasn't São Paulo's sharp corporate look. It was beachy but polished, tropical but serious. You'd have designers putting Carnival colors on a tailored blazer and somehow making it work perfectly. Rio had its own fashion DNA, ligado, its own way of doing things that you couldn't copy anywhere else. Rio Fashion Week was a major event. International buyers came, international press came, the city had real momentum. And then things got complicated. The 2000s and early 2010s were rough for Rio. Crime went up, tourism went down, the city's reputation took hits in the international press, and people who used to book flights to Rio started booking flights somewhere else instead. For the fashion world, Rio just stopped making sense. Why bring your brand, your buyers, your models to a city that felt unsafe? Why spend the money on a runway in Rio when São Paulo was right there, organized, stable, growing? So the spotlight moved. São Paulo Fashion Week, SPFW, became the place to be for Brazilian fashion. And Rio's week, it went quiet. For almost 10 years, there was basically nothing. The event that used to put Rio on the global fashion map just stopped happening. Que saudade. That's what Cariocas would say about it, a feeling of missing something that used to be yours. And for Rio's fashion community, that's exactly what it was. But here's the thing about Rio. Cariocas don't just give up. That's not in their DNA. While the fashion world wrote the city off, the people of Rio started doing the work. One of the biggest signs of the turnaround was the Pier Mauá. This was an old working dock right in the port area of Rio, basically abandoned for years. Gritty, run down, not somewhere you take a visitor. The city redeveloped it into a full cultural hub. Today it's got live music, restaurants, art, events, and one of the best views of Guanabara Bay you'll find anywhere. That wasn't just one project either. All over Rio, neighborhoods that had been left behind started coming back. Murals went up, businesses opened, local artists, community leaders, regular people from all kinds of backgrounds got involved in showing the world what Rio actually is. Not the headlines, not the worst moments, but the real city. 30,000 people came together to make this happen. That's not an exaggeration. 30,000 people contributed to the push that brought Rio Fashion Week back. Na moral, that's a movement, not a trend. Now here's where it gets really interesting. And this part connects directly to something we talk about a lot on this channel, Carnival. The fashion world started paying serious attention to Rio Carnival, not just as a cool photo op, but as a real collaboration, a creative partnership. And when that started happening, it sent a message to the whole industry. Dolce & Gabbana worked with Juliana Payet, the queen of the Viradouro Samba School, to create a custom jeweled carnival costume. Not a cheap licensing deal, a real, custom, high fashion piece built for the Sambadrome stage. The crowd went crazy, the internet went crazy, and every luxury brand watching from the outside suddenly started asking, How do we get in on this? Jean-Paul Gaultier went even further. He designed costumes for the Portela Samba School, one of the oldest and most respected schools in Rio Carnival. Mano, Jean-Paul Gaultier, designing for Portela. That's not a stunt. That's a real statement about where Brazilian culture sits in the global fashion conversation. What these collaborations showed is that Rio Carnival isn't just a party, it's a platform. It's one of the biggest stages in the world for creativity, costume, and culture. And now luxury brands know it. More are coming. Now here's where it gets really interesting. And this part connects directly to something we talk about a lot on this channel. Carnival. The fashion world started paying serious attention to Rio Carnival, not just as a cool photo op, but as a real collaboration, a creative partnership. And when that started happening, it sent a message to the whole industry. Dolce & Gabbana worked with Juliana Paes, the queen of the Viradouro Samba School, to create a custom jeweled Carnival costume. Not a cheap licensing deal, a real custom high fashion piece built for the Sambadromo stage. The crowd went crazy, the internet went crazy, and every luxury brand watching from the outside suddenly started asking, how do we get in on this? Jean-Paul Gaultier went even further. He designed costumes for the Portela Samba School, one of the oldest and most respected schools in Rio Carnival. That's a real statement about where Brazilian culture sits in the global fashion conversation. What these collaborations showed is that Rio Carnival isn't just a party, it's a platform. It's one of the biggest stages in the world for creativity, costume, and culture. And now luxury brands know it. More are coming to work with Brazil's top models and influencers. So when Rio Fashion Week finally came back, it wasn't a small thing. The event ran for 5 days. 20 brands showed their collections, and the lineup was a showcase of exactly what Brazilian fashion actually looks like when it's firing on all cylinders. You had Osklen, probably the most internationally recognized Brazilian brand, known for blending sustainability with that laid-back carioca aesthetic. Lenny Niemeyer, whose swimwear has been on beaches from Ipanema to the French Riviera. Caroline Vito, whose work on plus-size fashion has been getting serious attention in London and beyond. Miski, bringing sharp tailoring with a very Brazilian point of view. Angela Brito, a designer who's been championing Afro-Brazilian identity through fashion for years. Apartamento 03, doing something quieter and more architectural, clothes that make you look twice. And Dendizeiro. We'll come back to Dendizeiro because something happened at their show that nobody is going to forget. Out of the 20 brands, only one came from outside Brazil, Adidas, and they didn't just show up, they came with a point. Their collection was built around street culture, which in Rio means one thing above everything else: football. Not stadium football, street football. The kind played in favelas and on beaches with makeshift goals and no referee. Adidas put that energy on the runway. Sneakers, tracksuits, jersey fabrics, and made it feel like high fashion. Because in Rio, it already is. The fact that Adidas was the only international brand there says something important. It means this wasn't a generic international fashion week with some Brazilian flavor added in. This was Rio's fashion week. Brazilian designers, Brazilian identity, Brazilian creativity, front and center. Adidas earned their spot by speaking the language of the city. Now, Dendizeiro, the last show of Rio Fashion Week 2026. And the moment that people are still talking about. International supermodel Alton Mason closed the Dendizeiro show. That alone would have been a story. Mason is one of the most recognizable models working right now. He's walked for Louis Vuitton, Dior, Valentino. Having him close a show in Rio is a statement. But what actually happened on that runway went way beyond the famous face walking in someone's clothes. As Alton Mason stepped out, the music that came on wasn't a DJ track or a licensed song. It was a track he made himself, an original piece called Aura, which he produced specifically for Dindizeiro. And he didn't just produce it, he sang it in Portuguese. Now, we can't play it here, copyright stuff, you know how it goes. But do yourself a favor and go find Alton Mason on Instagram. It's right there on his page. Listen to it, you'll get it immediately. A Black American supermodel closing a Black Brazilian fashion brand's show, singing in Portuguese in Rio de Janeiro on the night that Rio Fashion Week came back to life. The crowd didn't know what to do at first, and then they absolutely lost it. That's not a fashion moment, that's a cultural moment. That's the kind of thing you look back on in 10 years and say, yeah, that's where it changed. The economic numbers tell one part of the story. Rio City Hall says this edition of Fashion Week could put about 100 million reais, around 20 million US dollars, into the local economy. Hotels packed, restaurants booked out, flights coming in from Europe, the US, all over Latin America. 30,000 visitors, not tourists buying keychains, designers, buyers, photographers, journalists, stylists, people who will write about Rio, post about Rio, and book flights back to Rio. That's what a fashion week does for a city. But the Alton Mason moment, that's what a movement does. And 2027 is already being talked about as a step up. Organizers want Rio Fashion Week to be a permanent spot on the global fashion calendar, not a one-time comeback story, but something that happens every year, grows every year, and gets harder to ignore every year. Think about what that means. Rio, which spent almost 10 years on the outside looking in, is now setting up to compete with the big ones again. São Paulo, sure, but also Milan, Paris, New York. The Carioca look, the Brazilian creativity, the Carnival meets couture energy that you can't find anywhere else on the planet. That's what Rio is putting back on the table. Maneiro, right? Like genuinely cool. The city that the fashion world wrote off is now the city the fashion world is flying back to. Look, Rio Fashion Week coming back isn't just a fashion story, it's a Rio story. It's 30,000 people deciding that their city is worth fighting for. It's artists and designers and samba schools and community leaders all pulling in the same direction. It's Chanel calling up a Carnival queen and saying, let's make something together. Rio is not the city the bad headlines made it out to be. It never was. And now, finally, the world is starting to remember that. That's the Brazil show for today. If you want to see more Rio, more Carnival, more of the real Brazil, subscribe. Comment below and tell us what you're thinking. And if this video got you feeling something for Rio, share it. Obrigada! Até mais, galera!
This is Brazil!